Getting some people in. That is great. For those who are unfamiliar with the format, we will be going over pre-picked questions from Twitter or X these days, whatever you want to call it. We have around 10 of those, and afterwards we will pick some live ones. The whole thing should be about 1 hour, give or take. And before we start with the formal part, Nikki, could you give us a courtesy and introduce us to the audience briefly? Of course, Nikki, you are a very familiar person in BD circles, but I'm sure none of our listeners are BDs here.
Thank you so much. Yeah, awesome meeting you guys, and thanks for hosting me. I'm really excited to be here and super pumped about the conversation that we're gonna have here. So my name is Nikki. Thank you for joining, guys. So I'm responsible for DeFi at Taiko. I've been in this space for quite some time, and since 2017, have started my career in a centralized exchange when I joined the space, and then worked for a custody solution provider, and after that worked for a couple of protocols such as Neon, Telos, and currently I'm with Taiko heading DeFi. So a little bit about myself. DeFi is my passion. Usually I really love to test new protocols out there, check out what's new meta, what's going on when it comes to products and dApps. So yeah, that's a little bit about me, and looking forward to shed some light on Taiko as well.
Awesome, fascinating. It's a pleasure to have you here today. Before we start, you have not been with Taiko for a long, right? I would like to congratulate you on this new position because I think a couple months, right? 3, 4 months?
Yeah, 3 months exactly. So
Awesome.
but 3 months have been gone by very fast. So that's what
I
happens, I guess, when
bet.
you're busy.
I bet. Yeah, I think last many years have gone very fast by me, that's for sure. Anyways, can you give us a brief introduction about Taiko? What's it all about before we move on to the questions from the users?
Sure. So I get that question quite a lot because, in the end of the day, people, you tell them, okay, we're Taiko, we're a rollup on Ethereum. And one of the questions I sometimes get is don't you think we have enough of rollups in this space? Why do we need one more? And of course, there's maybe some misunderstanding and some actually, misalignment here, sometimes lack of knowledge, and probably we need to do better on our end to educate people. But essentially, Taiko is the first based rollup in the space, launched on mainnet in May of this year. And essentially, what does that mean, right? So to be a based rollup. So when it comes to settlement layer, to data availability layer, to consensus layer, it's all Ethereum, and the execution layer, like a base rollup, executes transactions off chain on its own. And one key factor of the base rollup is we inherit all the liveness guarantees of Ethereum. And essentially when it comes to the MEV, most base rollup MEV flows to L1 validators. And one key important factor is which is a very contested in the rollup space. Majority of the rollups rely on the centralized sequencer when it comes to base sequencing. Actually, base sequencing is maximally simple and inherits the decentralization of the layer 1 and naturally reuses L1 searcher builder proposer infrastructure. So essentially, our sequencer is decentralized, and I'm really happy to be part of this, kind of revolutionary team and approach, and looking forward to scaling Ethereum together. So.
Awesome, fascinating. Thank you for the introduction. Yeah, I'm not, because you said you get a question that there's too many rollups quite often. I don't think I've seen too many base rollups out there, of the process that you just described here. But anyways, the education part is definitely still very lacking in the crypto space. People, to this day, they just want quick gains in and outs. Well, not very many understand the intricacies of the projects, and that's why we're here today. Let's start on with the questions, right? What benefits does the combination of ZK rollups and optimistic rollups in Taiko's modular design provide in terms of cost reduction and decentralization?
Sure. So let me answer this question, right? So generally speaking, what are the key features of Taiko, right? First of all, it's the centralized sequencing. So, So we are using validators for block proposals and transaction sequencing, eliminated the need for centralized sequencer. And essentially, this approach is very important because it enhances censorship resistance and ensures that actually no single entity can control the network, right? And then when it comes to Ethereum compatibility, since we're the type 1, Taiko is fully compatible with Ethereum. So what does it mean? If I am a dApp and I want to deploy, let's say, on Taiko, it's pretty straightforward. It's simple, like you can just pretty much copy and paste. When it comes to the other rollups, for example, in some cases, you need to take into account the architecture beyond the sequencer and kind of adapt to it. And essentially one key factor is that also like a permissionless like proving. Taiko allows anyone to participate in the network, maintaining like the core principles of the decentralization. And you as a contributor, you can actually contribute, and also will be introducing pre-confirmations to achieve second like transaction confirmations, like which will bridge the gap between the centralized sequencing and the fast confirmation types typically managed by the centralized sequencer. So, and essentially, like if you are a builder and you want to build on Taiko, it's pretty fast, it's pretty simple. So if you have something cool to build, if you have a next DeFi protocol or a gaming dApp, feel free to come and check out our ecosystem page and deploy your dApp. It's as simple as that. And then like what else we can do is actually we can plug you into our Trailblazers campaign program, and you can participate there and earn points and retroactive rewards as a dApp.
Cool, very cool. So basically, by eliminating the centralized sequencer, it makes the chain more agnostic, right? Because there is no essential centralized entity to selectively, kind of impact the transaction, so to speak. Very cool. All right. You kind of already touched on it. The next question. Can you provide insight into the synergies between Taiko ZK rollup development and the broader Ethereum ecosystem?
I mean, when it comes to the broader Ethereum ecosystem, this is something that we keep in mind, and that's why we chose to design to be as much close as possible to Ethereum. And essentially, like, our design has been challenged in the past as well. Like, maybe some people wouldn't believe it, but we have proven that, like, there's a profitable way for decentralization, right? So base rollups can be actually profitable, and we have achieved that. So essentially we have opened kind of like a new possibilities for Ethereum scaling through base rollups. And we have seen, for example, when it comes to Taiko, like huge growth in network activity, or like, for example, mainnet engagement has skyrocketed. And I mean, like recently, like we have again, kind of recorded around 3 million transactions, and then also like our user base is growing on daily basis. And when it comes to the ecosystem growth, it's also skyrocketing. I would say we have onboarded a lot of dApps. So if you go, for example, and check our ecosystem page, we have more than 100 dApps available. So you have, like, if you want to play games, we do have gaming on Taiko. We have a good selection of games. And then if you would like to like experience DeFi on Taiko, we do have, like, for example, a bunch of dApps from different, I would say, verticals like DEXs, DEX aggregators, lending and borrowing protocols. If you want to open a long and short position, you can also do that. And then we do have cross-chain and bridges, so available also in Taiko if you want to come into the ecosystem. And essentially we're building that also further, to like enhance what we have currently in place. So when it comes to the ecosystem growth, especially on the DeFi side, for example, recently we had Panko launch, like PancakeSwap franchise, and we have also recently announced a liquidity royale program for top 100 TVL providers, where they can actually earn 1 million Taiko tokens. So if you haven't checked that out, please have a look into it. And we have also like onboarded bigger names, so we will announce them as well. Like next week we have another DEX coming up, so I don't want to spoil the news now. And then we have also started onboarding like BTC assets into our ecosystem, because we do see like an explosive growth in that area as well. And first assets will be available next week as well. So, and we'll be expanding from there onward. But in our case, what we want to achieve in the end of the day from the ecosystem perspective is to ensure that we have a fully composable ecosystem, not just from the dApp perspective. Like sometimes people think that full composability consists just simply of having like all types of different dApps. That's not the case. It also consists of having different types of products that you can offer to your community, right? So like you have to always follow up and see like what's available in the market, why people are chasing that. For example, when it comes to LRTs, when it comes to yield-bearing assets, also you have to check what's going on the Bitcoin front. And essentially, like after that, probably the next meta might be RWA. So we're kind of like trying to follow those narratives as well and ensure that our community and ecosystem also has access to that.
Awesome. That is great. I think the overall compatibility in the, big framework is very important for the adaptability and, the mainstream spread of any project these days. Because you're looking back, I don't know, even 3 years ago on DeFi and all those different protocols they're building within their own ecosystem, they aren't compatible with anything. And a lot of them went under pretty quickly just because it never seen much adoption, just because it's not compatible with anything. In order to build on it, it's another brand new language, and then it's just not attractive to the user. So it's definitely kudos to you guys for building, taking that approach of being compatible all around. Alrighty, let's continue with the questions. How does Taiko balance the need for deep liquidity pools with the flexibility required for users to freely participate in multiple campaigns and staking options?
Sure. So, I mean, liquidity is, I would say, an integral part of any ecosystem, and that's what we're currently working on heavily. So, I mean, what does it mean, right? Why is liquidity important? Generally speaking, one of the key things that you do when you enter any ecosystem, let's say like, okay, if you're more into the gaming, you can just go and check the gaming dApps and be like, okay, I just want to stay on that front. But generally speaking, as a developer, you want to see, okay, there's enough liquidity within the ecosystem. So like, which means that for potential, there's more capital and potential there are more users that can utilize your dApp, especially on the DeFi front. It's very important, right? So if, for example, I, let's say build a DEX and I deploy it on Taiko, I know that, for example, if I come to Taiko, there will be might be enough interest for the users to utilize that DEX. And essentially that's what we are working on currently to address the liquidity issues, also within the Taiko ecosystem, which means attracting more TVL, bringing more interesting dApps into the ecosystem, bringing bigger names. Unfortunately, I cannot just announce them yet, but we do have Panko, which recently launched its franchise by PancakeSwap, so it's a well-known team. And then we do have also Taco, by the way, because we've been asked by some community members, okay, who's the team behind? That's not a secret. It's the team behind Lendl.xyz, which is one of the lending and borrowing protocols on Mantle. And they're a very strong team with a great background. And essentially, we're also building some bigger names, which we will be announcing in the next week and then the following weeks after, to actually ensure that, okay, we have dApps that could be interesting for bigger players, for bigger liquidity providers, so they can actually bring more liquidity into the ecosystem.
Awesome. That is great. So development all across the board. The next question is kind of elaborating on something that you said earlier and the first one. The concept of base transaction sequencing is intriguing. Can you explain the mechanics behind it and how it helps maintain a balanced network while providing Ethereum's level of credible neutrality? What challenges come with this approach, if there is any?
I mean, so one thing to remember is that base sequencing inherits the decentralization of layer one, which is Ethereum, right? And So it's pretty much base sequencing mechanisms for rollups are led by L1 proposers, right? What does it mean? So it means that it offers better, if not better, like it offers equal, if not better UX compared to centralized sequencing in terms of pre-confirmation time, when we will have the pre-confirmations, which are coming soon. And then, you can, as a participant, actually generate revenue, and we have proven that. If you go to Grow the Pie, you can see basically the profitability chart for Taiko as well. What is also very cool about base rollups, that's actually I found very intriguing and thought it was pretty cool. For me personally, it enables composability with other rollups actually without the requirement to trust a centralized sequencing layer. And it's also, like, as I said, inherits the liveness guarantees of the layer 1. And you don't need to trust a single party, right? Like in most of the other cases when it comes to different rollups, because it kind of ensures a sizable and diverse sets of sequencers. So that's within an acceptable time frame, as censored transactions will reach an honest sequencer that will be willing to sequence its transactions. And essentially, that's basically the key features. And what's really you have is like secure without UX sacrifices. So that's very important. Like a goal for the centralized sequencing design, like it enables rollup protocol to offer equal, if not better UX, as I mentioned, when it comes to centralized sequencing. And it's economically sustainable. There are no walled gardens, since you can actually you can be composable with the other rollups as well, and you inherit Ethereum's liveness, which is pretty great, and which makes us also more Ethereum aligned. And it's like you don't have to trust any other third party, so which is very important as well in this space.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the base rollup solution and the elimination of the centralized sequencer, from my standpoint, it's just basically another step in the sort of evolutionary process of just how those type of projects evolve, right? It's becoming less centralized, and it's just another step for a more truly decentralized, more truly decentralized finance approach. That what we're essentially trying to achieve at the space as a whole, is to make things as agnostic as possible. All right, and the next question kind of elaborates on the previous one as well. As Taiko aims for maximum decentralization, what mechanisms are being considered for future governance of the network?
Sure. I mean, as it's not a secret for any of you, like we're setting up our DAO contracts, and I think there will be shortly an announcement around that. So I don't want to spoil it. Basically, Taiko DAO will be an important part of the network. So just keep your eye on it, and it's on progress. Essentially, it will be the governing body of Taiko token holders with voting rights. So, for example, over smart contract upgrades, network parameters, and more. And basically, the idea will be that it will control all the aspects of the protocol smart contract. So stay tuned for that. So I think the announcement around that is coming.
Cool, super cool. The next question is kind of a bit of a two-parter. How does Taiko plan to evolve its Trailblazers program to keep engagement high as the platform scales? Well, before that one, what is the Trailblazers program? Can you please shine some light on it for us?
Sure, of course, with the greatest pleasure. Actually, I think Trailblazers is a very interesting approach for Taiko to incentivize its community and incentivize its dApps at the same time. And I think it's a kind of a unique approach, because you do have similar programs in other ecosystems, and but I believe a Trailblazers is a notch higher, because we build it ourselves, we put a lot of effort into it, and whenever we built it we actually kept a lot of aspects in mind, right? Like how do we ensure that, community also has a fair chance to profit from it, to benefit from it actually, and how do we ensure that, like, as we scale, like as things grow bigger, we also keep on scaling the program. And essentially what it is, right? Like you come to, for example, trailblazers.taiko.xyz, you can go to the leaderboard. There are different leaderboards, for example, for users, for dApps. If you go to the dApps leaderboard, you can see, like, for example, the dApps that are kind of like in the Trailblazers, participating in the Trailblazers campaign. And then if you go to the users leaderboard, if you're a user, you can actually see your ranking as well. So what does it mean? If, for example, I come and I connect my wallet and I do some tasks like, let's say I make a swap or I play a game, I start accumulating those points. And each Trailblazer, season, it lasts around 3 months. So how does it work? So I accumulate points, and at the end of each, of 3 months, those points actually get converted to Taiko tokens, and I receive those rewards. So it's not like, for example, a promise of points for something in the future that's unknown. You know that, for example, like if you do certain actions and you generate transactions, let's say, and so on, you will be eligible for Taiko tokens. And for the dApps, it's kind of similar. The more the dApp gets used, the more actually the points they accumulate, and essentially they also become eligible for the retroactive rewards. And essentially during season 1, and season 2 also, we do have some competitions. Like, for example, during season 1, we had DeFi competition, I believe, bridging competition. Then we had gaming competition as well. And then we finished it off with a Stargate campaign. And during now we do have also certain campaigns running as well. So for example, lock and earn, I believe, campaign where you can actually lock your, for example, Taiko tokens in a specific protocols, which is Taiko drips and symmetric, and get 60 times the points. And then you have also, Robino's campaign running, which is basically, if you get the, all you have to go and do is bet on certain outcomes. And if you do get the right outcome, you will be actually earning 3 times the points, I believe. And then we do have also another competition from the gaming perspective running. And then we also have the liquidity royale running, essentially where we have 2 protocols participating, which is Panko, the ETHX, and Taiko, which is a lending and borrowing protocol. So if you supply liquidity on specific pools, and in the end of the campaign, which is set to finish on the 16th of December, at the end, which is at the end of the season 2, if you end up in top 100 TVL provider or liquidity providers list, you will be qualified for 10,000 Taiko tokens. So yeah, we do like to play with Trailblazers a lot, to kind of also check and adjust it and see what works, what doesn't work in the end of the day. And essentially, we do see our community being engaged, and really, the community really likes to use it. And the more we grow, the more protocols we add into it, the more interesting campaigns we have running. So to kind of service different types of participants within the ecosystem.
Super cool. So there's a lot of different ways for people to participate and earn tokens. That is great. Definitely, I do believe that incentivizing, community and the users to do so is always a great way to engage with the community, and other than, just waiting for community to do something itself, which is fascinating in my opinion. And as far as I understand, that mechanism was put in place right from the get-go, which is also a very good, long-termish approach. All right, we have 3 more questions left, and then we can take some live ones. What specific feedback mechanisms does Taiko have in place to gather insights from developers and users during the beta phases of new features? How does this feedback influence the product roadmap?
Generally speaking, we're open to feedback. If you have any feedback, you can come and provide that feedback in our Discord channel and stuff like this, we would really appreciate it, or like in our like community groups. So you can provide the feedback anytime. We're open to feedback and we take it, and we give the credit. So feel free if you have any feedback to provide.
Cool. Is there any voting mechanisms in place?
Not at the moment, but as I mentioned, with the launch of the DAO, we will have certain voting mechanisms, of course.
Awesome. All right, 2 more to go. What mechanisms will be in place to ensure the long-term economic sustainability of the ecosystem and the value of the Taiko token?
Sorry, can you repeat it again?
Yeah. What mechanisms will be in place to ensure the long-term economic sustainability of the ecosystem and the value of the Taiko token?
Sure. So essentially, like, the value is derived, like, our aim here is to kind of like grow the growth and adoption of Taiko as a protocol, to ensure that it's widely available in every venue, so people have an access to it. And then essentially, like, it's utilized within the ecosystem as well. So one key thing to remember is like a Taiko token is a native utility token within the Taiko ecosystem, and it plays an important role, which for maintaining and enhancing the network's operations and governance. One of the primary use cases of the Taiko token is its function in the Taiko DAO, where token holders are granted voting rights. These rights enable holders to participate in decision making, for example, such as protocol upgrades, parameter adjustments, and other governance matters once we launch the DAO. And beyond governance, the Taiko is also integral to the network's economic model. It's used, for it's cost-effective alternative to high fees often associated with the Ethereum transactions. So as you see, it's not just driven by the governance part.
Cool. All right, last one, and then we move on to the live questions. How does Taiko simplify the complexity of blockchain technology for its users and potential partners? And what specific educational or outreach initiatives are in place to communicate its core principles?
Sure. I mean, I believe I explained it in the beginning. It's basically it's kind of the same question, essentially. As a matter of fact, right, but Taiko is a base rollup, which means that we pretty much inherit everything from Ethereum. And if someone wants to deploy something on Taiko, it's pretty simple because everything pretty much is inherited from Ethereum, right? All the liveness guarantees. So, which means a settlement layer, data availability layer, consensus layer is all Ethereum, execution layer, base rollups, execute transactions off chain on its own. And essentially from the economic alignment perspective, most base MEV flows to L1 validators. And, when it comes to the sequencer, the base sequencing is, as I mentioned, is very simple and it inherits the centralization of the layer 1. So from the deployment perspective, to deploy on Taiko is pretty intuitive and fast. And, generally speaking, when it comes to the educational or outreach initiatives to communicate its core principles. I mean, we're working on that. We do produce a lot of educational material. We do participate in different events to convey our message. Yes, maybe we should also educate more when it comes to the base rollup space, because in a lot of cases we do see that people still lack understanding of different types of rollups. But yeah, that's the idea. And it's basically if you want to check out Taiko, it's very simple, very intuitive, and very easy to use and deploy.
Great. And as you said at the very beginning of the session, we need to, fix the issue of the education and be part of the industry that actually educates its users, not just on, the simple stuff, but how things actually work, because, right, at the end of the day, right, you don't have to know how the combustion engine works to operate a car, to drive a car, so you don't have to know the language of the blockchain in order to be able to run things on it. So it's definitely very important, and it's great that you guys kind of taking this approach of simplifying things for the users, for sure. All right, looks like we're done with the pre-picked question, and we can take some live ones. I'm seeing a lot of hands in the chat. Let's pick someone who has been here since the beginning. Lucas has been here since the very beginning, I think. Lucas, adding you as a speaker. Looks like we're having some. Oh, Lucas, you can speak now. You have to unmute yourself. There's a little microphone thingy on the left side of your device. Yes, please ask your question.
Hello. Okay. Thank you for bringing me up. My question is that community support is very important in any project. So how do you plan to attract more users and expand your community globally? Thank you.
We have Trailblazers program. I would suggest going and checking out trailblazers.taiko.xyz. And yeah, have a look at it and feel free to participate.
Awesome. We will be posting links in the recap after that so the people can find all those programs easily. Thank you, Lucas, for your question. Let's take some other ones. Julie has been here since the very beginning as well. Julie, adding you as a speaker.
Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. My question is, I would like to know what's the motivation and the inspiration behind the creation of your project, and do you have an ambassadors program? Thank you.
Sure, I can give you. So generally speaking, if you look at the history of the project, I mean, most of the founders are coming from the project called Loopring, and essentially they were one of the first ones, to drive this sort of when it comes to Loopring, novel approach. And essentially it's the same team that built edified Taiko. And the reason why we actually built Taiko is because we're challenging, issues to resolve. And Taiko was one of them because, because base rollup, because a lot of rollups do have centralized sequencers, and we really were kind of intrigued by how we can actually, resolve this issue. And base rollup seemed to be the way, so we decided to build that out. And essentially, when it comes to ambassador program, I'm not sure if we have one active, but you can always join our Discord, and you can join our community. Be active there. Speak to the mods. If you have interesting ideas, you can always propose them. And we'll be more than happy to have you in our community.
Awesome. Thank you,
Thank you
Julia,
very
for your
much
question.
for answering my question.
All right, let's get another one. See, let's pick someone from the lower down the list. Jarvis, adding you as a speaker. Jarvis, you can speak now. You have to unmute yourself though.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, so basically my question is, how does Taiko permissionless system balance between decentralization and potential vulnerabilities to the network congestion or attacks? And lastly, what is the criteria must be met to get a grant from Taiko? Thank you.
Sure. Can you please repeat your first question again? I couldn't hear it. Sorry.
Yeah. So, how does Taiko permissionless system balance between the decentralization and the potential vulnerabilities to the network congestion or attacks?
I mean, it just comes from the design after all, right? Like, apart from the fact that we're audited and highly secure, but in the end of the day, as I mentioned, like base rollup from the security perspective, it's, I would say, one of the most leading ones when it comes to that. Of course, to give up certain, like, comfort such as speed and stuff like that at the moment. But essentially, we're inheriting everything from Ethereum, including the liveness guarantees. So, which means that we are secure, we are decentralized. So there's no question around that. And then when it comes to the grants programs, we do have grants programs, which are, you can just I think you can just simply look for Taiko grants. And essentially, how we provide them on the, I think on the milestone basis. So essentially we'll look at certain metrics before releasing the funds. And the other thing that I would like to also mention is that we have a hackathon running with DoraHacks, something important to check out as well. It's all posted on our X account, so feel free to go there and have a look. And if you would like, you can also participate there as well.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the information.
Awesome. Thank you, Jarvis. All right, let's take one more, maybe. How do we feel about another question, Nikki? Okay, let's get one more. Miles, setting you as a speaker. You can speak now, Miles. You have to unmute yourself. Oh, looks like he's stuck at the connectivity. Just give him a second. Miles, there you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, please.
Okay. So my question is, do you have any referable do you have any referral program?
What do you mean by referral program? Sorry.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. My question is, in terms of global expansion, what's the strategy for expanding Taiko's reach beyond current user bases?
Yeah, sure. So I can give you a little bit of information around there. Essentially, how we want to expand is by onboarding interesting use cases into our ecosystem. After all, we're all, or kind of like, even though we're employed by Taiko Labs, we're all ambassadors of Taiko. And for us what we want to ensure is that we ensure the growth and adoption of Taiko, right? So it doesn't mean that we stick, for example, to the use cases that we currently have, which is gaming and which is DeFi. It's also going beyond that, like basically keeping our heads out there, checking what's the meta, what's going on, what's new and cooking. So for example, stepping into the RWA space, working maybe with the enterprises and so on down the road. But essentially, we really want to expand in different verticals and ensure that we cover most of them. So to keep on driving more demand and growth for Taiko.
Fascinating. That was a great final question, I believe. Thank you, Miles, for asking that. And thank you, Nikki, for coming today, joining us, and giving a lot of information on Taiko, because I myself was pretty ignorant about the project. I knew it was a base rollup, but that was pretty much it, and definitely appreciate the schooling today. Do you have anything? Do you want to add anything or wrap it up somehow?
No, not anything from my end. I would like to thank you guys for hosting me. Thanks everyone for the wonderful questions. Really enjoyed this session, and I'm looking forward to the next sessions. Really thank you so much for putting so much effort and organizing this. It was a true pleasure and can't express my gratitude enough. Thank you so much, guys, and I'm super excited to be working with you.
Thank you too, Nikki. Let's give you a round of applause. That was well deserved. And let's wrap this up. For the people who came late or who will be missing this entirely, don't be afraid. We will be posting on recaps on X, on YouTube, and there will be a text recap as well. So everything will be caught on. Well, thank you, and everyone have a good night or whatever time of day it is for you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Bye. Bye-bye.